Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior. Now today I wanted to touch on a topic that I've been seeing kind of float around for a bit of time now, so I thought I'd talk about it and give my own personal thoughts on it. And obviously it says so in the title, is Injustice 2 dead and finished? Well, in terms of it being finished, it's still too early to say, and the game still is somewhat alive, as I mean we still haven't had the last DLC character for the game, so it isn't kind of dead. However, there has been one massive problem with Injustice 2 compared to something like Mortal Kombat X, which was a previous product, and that's the reception it's been getting from its main audience. Now there are a lot of factors we have to take into account here, but before we get to that, let's talk about how successful the game was and how the long-term plan of it really kind of stifled the game over the course of time. Now Injustice 2 was in fact the best-selling game of the first quarter of last year, and over the course of time it would sell 2 to 3 million or so copies, making it indeed a massive success, especially when you take into account the popularity and hype around comic book movies, which no doubt in my mind played a part in its success. But in also saying that, how was this game received? Well, upon its release it got a lot of positive reviews, and really it's quite safe to say that Injustice 2 does have entertaining gameplay, but the one thing that really hurt the game upon its release and did continue to damage its reputation over the course of time, at least gameplay wise, was the inclusion of Deadshot. Now he's not a bad character, and his zoning style was certainly something to be desired, but the main problem with the character wasn't just so much the zoning, but it was how he was able to slow the match down. When you compare something like Injustice 2 to Mortal Kombat X, the pacing of Mortal Kombat X was a lot faster. The fast and adrenaline pumping gameplay is what really helped engage viewers and players, and the gameplay of Injustice 2 is definitely slow in comparison to that, and that's because it's a lot more footsie based, especially when you take into account the exclusion of an actual block button. So I'll simply put it like this: if the gameplay is slow, you don't want to slow it down any more than the way it is, and that is exactly what Deadshot zoning does. It slowed down the pace of a match to the point where it just wasn't that entertaining to watch. Now what can keep someone invested and continuously watching a particular product is by it being intriguing and interesting. This rule can be applied to all forms of media, and without that you do have a bland product. Now that's not to say the entirety of Injustice 2 is bland and boring, because there's definitely good aspects of the game, and the positives most certainly outweigh the negatives. However, unlike a film, since it's a game, patches are normally applied, so alterations can be made so such negative aspects can disappear. But unfortunately with something like Injustice 2, the damage had been done, and the game received negative reception from its audience. Now that's not to say that Deadshot brought all the negativity to the game. Over the course of time, people started to play it more and find obvious problems with the game, like the damage output of some characters being a bit too much, or just some inbuilt game mechanics being broken. So it wasn't solely Deadshot's fault that there was a lot of negativity around the gameplay, but he was clearly a problem since the release of the game and wasn't taken down a notch much later in the game's lifespan. So like I said, the damage had been done. Now another thing we definitely do need to talk about is the season pass slash DLC, which in my mind has always been a massive bit of controversy that surrounds not only Injustice but NetherRealm games in general. Now for those of you who aren't too familiar with NetherRealm Studios, they've worked on all Mortal Kombat games and were the creators of Injustice 2, and ever since they rebooted their universe in Mortal Kombat 9 and have been working with Warner Brothers, their future DLC plans have always been to include a guest character in some form of way, and once again that's where a lot of backlash from this game comes from. The casual fans who aren't too familiar with the business practices of this certain studio were understandably very upset, because well, when you buy a DC game you understandably expect DC characters. So understandably a lot of casual fans felt manipulated as they didn't expect to see guest characters in this game, as they themselves aren't familiar with the business practices, to which I can't blame them. If you see a game you like, you don't necessarily care too much about the studio. Now have the DLC characters been underwhelming? Well, to be fair, this is quite subjective, so this is where opinions vary. Personally, I myself am fine with all characters that have been included in here. Everyone has their own playstyle, and it feels like there's been variety with each individual, so there are no clone characters and everyone has a unique style of play. I myself do not necessarily care too much about DLC, so understandably people who are holding out for a particular character will be quite upset if the studio doesn't deliver, and that's what I believe this whole Injustice 2 is dead thing kinda stems from. Now understandably over the course of time, players will be drawn to other games. That's just simply how gamers are. We are always interested in the next new big thing, so to say that Injustice 2 is dead is certainly an exaggeration of the current situation of the game. But one thing I can definitely say about it is that the game has most certainly lost a lot of momentum that it did have upon its release, and it's vastly due to a lot of the stuff that I've actually talked about in this video here. That and the fact that a lot of people have been asking for Mortal Kombat 11, and I'm not gonna lie, lie, that's an itch I want scratched as well. So I myself would be personally fine if after the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are released, they simply start to put work into Mortal Kombat 11. But then again, it all does come down to taste and preference. Now down in the comments below, what do you think about the whole Injustice 2 situation? Do you think the game is dead or has lost a lot of momentum? Would you like to see a future fighter pack, or would you much prefer Mortal Kombat 11 to go into development? Please do comment down below, as I'm interested to hear what everyone has to say on this situation. As like I said, I am a fan of Injustice 2, but there's no denying the kind of odd situation that the game's kind of been put in. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this. This is quite different from what I normally do, but I've been seeing a lot of these messages and stuff and thought I'd actually make a video about it, discussing where I personally stand and whether or not this game is truly somewhat dead. But anyway guys, that's kind of it for now. Now if possible guys, let's try getting this video to about 500 likes, as it's a great way of helping out this channel since YouTube's ad system is broken as hell. So by giving it a thumbs up, it helps out a ton. And if you want to go the extra step, we also have a Patreon set up, and a link for that will be down in the description below. Anyway guys, as always, please comment, like, subscribe and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I'll see you all next time.